All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxing Wave. When we are back, please, if you are new, subscribe to the channel. All right, Canelo Crawford. We're counting down the days. It's gonna be next weekend, Saturday, September 13th. It's gonna be on Netflix. All right, and I will be here live. All right. We're gonna change the format for this breakdown. Okay. Normally I do one or two big videos especially when these bigger fights like this, where I discuss everything in one video. You know what I mean? I might do like a couple videos leading up to it, but normally I will do a whole breakdown off the top of the head, talk about everything from resumes, everything leading up to the fight, the styles and strategies on what they got to do to win and all that. I normally do all of that in one video. Okay. I'm changing the format because there's just too much to discuss. And as I started preparing to do the breakdown, I was like, this is just too much to talk about all in one video because we're going to talk about so many things. There's so many different topics leading into this fight. And I'm actually still working on my final prediction. All right. A big fan of Crawford. He is my favorite active fighter. But you guys that's been here know that I'm always going to be fair when it comes to an actual prediction. All right. My emotions, my feelings when it comes to boxing, my bias that becomes, that comes in for certain fighters. It's never helped me when it came to an actual fight. At the end of the day, the fight is going to go the way it's going to go. And we can only pick based on, who we think is going to win. You know what I mean? And boxing has never cared about my feelings. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is going to be the first video. I did create a playlist, so if you want, you can go to the playlist section of my channel. There's a tab there for playlists, and I created it, and I already included the content I previously made for this fight. But this is like recent stuff, and I want to address all the stuff in certain videos, so I'm going to break it up and talk on different topics. Obviously, we're going to talk about the styles, we're going to talk about the weight, we're going to talk about the resumes, we're going to talk about all the little things that we discuss when breaking down a fight, but we're going to go more in depth in each video. I don't want to make it too long. I want to keep everybody's attention going and just keep bringing, having more engagement with the channel by breaking down this fight in separate videos. Okay. All right. So this is just an introduction video. Again, I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 60-40 on where I'm going with the fight. But to start things off, my views on this fight has not really changed that much. Okay, that much. They have changed a little bit. I have been swayed because I remember when we first started talking about this fight, I think it was probably after Crawford had beat Spence. Okay, I'm not sure where Canelo was at. Like, I'm not sure if it was Jaime Munguia. Maybe it was around the time before he fought Jaime Munguia, but I remember the discussion started to happen early, okay, a while back, probably after Crawford beat Spence. And I remember where Crawford did an interview where he was asked about this fight in the beginning. And in the beginning, he said, he was not really entertaining it. He was like, there's weight classes for a reason. He thought it was a little bit ridiculous, but based on the people around him, he says that Bill Haney is the one that told him and said that's his fight. And that gave him, the will to want to take this fight. Plus the money that's involved. I mean, who wouldn't want to take a fight that's this big? Especially when it comes to Canelo. You're jumping up 2 divisions. You only been at 154 for one fight. To a lot of people, it wasn't his best performance, against Israel Madrimov, because he went on like a 10-11 KO streak at 147, knocking everybody out down there, knocking out the majority of the guys at 140 he fought, except Victor Postal. So I think at the end of the day, it wasn't a fight that I didn't think it was going to really happen. But the way the climate is with boxing, we are getting better fights, more consistently. But we are getting some ridiculous fights as well, like Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think now, looking at it right now, looking at the development with Crawford, and we're going to talk about that too, because I said we're going to bring up resumes, but we're going to talk about Crawford not being active versus Canelo being more active. We're going to talk about all of those things in separate videos because, again, I want to keep you guys engaged in this fight, and we're going to break down each specific point because I listen to a lot of people, and I also read a lot, especially when I see like on social media and on X and stuff on Twitter. And I read a lot of things and I'll be like, sometimes people just be saying stuff, and I understand that people are biased here, especially in this fight, because there's a lot of racial bias in this fight. Um, for sure, it's a lot of racial bias, and then there's also a lot of unknowns here because with Canelo, I think the only unknown with him is how far from his prime is he. I don't think he's in his prime, but I don't think he's far from it. I think we gotta always remember that Canelo is fighting guys that's bigger than him in every fight. And even though he dominated some of the guys like Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders and Plant better than what he's done in his most recent fights, we still got to understand that he is fighting guys that are really big, super middleweights. You know what I mean? That guys that's probably can easily fight at light heavy. So we got to remember that with that as well, with his experience and everything. So we're going to talk about all of that in separate fights. Like I said, this is more like an introduction on how I'm going to do this and how we're going to do these things moving forward. But I think the most questions and concerns I have is with Crawford. It's a lot of unknowns with him. And I say that because he's moving up 2 divisions, okay, after only having one fight at 154. And he's fighting someone that's way better than everybody that anybody else that he's faced. You know what I mean? And I think that is the hardest part. I think the weight thing is huge. But the other thing that's huge is how does he do against Canelo? Stylistically. I know a lot of people talk about who has the better IQ and stuff like that, and the better experience and stuff. And we're going to talk about more about that too individually. But these are the things that I feel like it's so many things that we got to discuss. And I'm going to continue to be as fair as possible when discussing this. I'm just not going to pull random stuff out of my ass and be completely biased. You guys already know who I want to win. All right. But at the end of the day, especially if you're a gambler, the money doesn't care about your feelings. Boxing doesn't care about the outcome is going to be the outcome. And it's hard to call this fight because we really don't know what Crawford can really, really do. And I think the only time where Crawford, to me, went into a fight not playing at all, being serious from the very first round is that Spence fight. I think that Spence fight was like, Bud was so serious in that fight, all the way through. There was never, and unfortunately, like, even though on paper that was his best opponent, he made it look so easy that it still makes me have a lot of questions on what can he really, really do at this level, because I've seen Canelo at a higher level more consistently than Bud, and that's a fact. That's not, let's get out of the biases. Let's just talk boxing for a second. Bud has a phenomenal resume and he's accomplished phenomenal things. But when you look at Lara, Triple G, Bivol, Floyd Mayweather, Miguel Cotto, Sergey Kovalev, and the list goes on. You know what I mean? It's like a different level. It is a different level. So that makes it difficult. Yes, Crawford, to me, when we say IQ, I think he looks like the better boxer. But we're comparing it based on who he fought versus who Canelo fought. You know what I mean? So we'll talk more about that. I'm definitely going to make another video talking about that as well. But I'm going to change the format for the fight. The videos will be much shorter. And again, I think that would be better to keep you guys' attention going. And as we continue, and you can leave the comments and you can request what you guys want me to talk about when it comes to this fight. Some people are still totally against this fight. Some people just think this is a huge money grab for the both of them, and it's just going to be another circus, because we've been getting a lot of these fights where it looked like it's intriguing on paper, but then it can end up being a joke. You know what I mean? And some people just don't really believe it. Some of them just think this is a mismatch and this shouldn't even be happening, even though it's wild, because Canelo and Crawford are damn near even when it comes to the betting odds. But when it came to Bivol, guys like Bivol who actually beat Canelo, Bivol was a pretty, a decent underdog, compared to Canelo. You know what I mean? Because Canelo was coming off a really good run. So, um, this is like a 50-50 fight in the public's eyes. But there's still a lot of people that still think that this is not like a real fight. Like, this is just a fight that Turkey wants, and this is just a money fight type of thing. It's not really like a serious fight. So we'll definitely talk on that. I don't want to give it all away, because there's things I definitely want to bring up. But I kind of just wanted to give you guys a heads up with how I'm doing things. Please, again, I did create a playlist. There is content in there if you want to watch and hear my thoughts on this fight in previous videos. And just look out. I'm going to just keep pumping out the videos, and you guys will see it. So look out. Again, subscribe and hit the bell notifications so you'll be alerted whenever I drop the new videos. And I'll see you guys soon. All right. Peace.